Further ado, I wanted to invite our speaker today, my wonderful husband.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Bonjour. Buenos dias.
Buenos días.
Ohayou gozaimasu. Доброе утро. Доброй раницы. Impressed? Okay.
Guten Morgen.
Sorry for that.
Guten Morgen. Ich liebe dich. Sorry. Whose phone is this one? Whose phone is that? Do I need mic? I need mic, right? Somebody's recording, right? Welcome back, Simon! You thought I'm not gonna notice you. You brought a big bowl of oranges. Okay. So, remember my last time I was talking about chicken or the egg?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
I still don't know which one.
You don't know? Come on, okay, I'm gonna give it again now. So for you. So I'm gonna talk about laws of relationship. Last one was the laws of cause and effect. And this time I would like to speak about laws of relationships. I'd like to give a warning before I speak. I was debating, should I apologize first or just warning? I'm not gonna apologize. Just a warning, right? Relationships is a very complex topic, right? Because, you know, all our lives are pretty much relationships. There's a lot of angles to cover.
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
There's a lot of angles to cover. You heard that?
Somebody's listening.
And so I am just a messenger that I try to describe a basic laws, guidelines for relationships, right? In the process, I will try to make it more relatable. And therefore, I might make some examples that might impact you personally. Okay? If that is the case, you can think about it three ways. Tolik is a jerk. That's,
Given.
yes. Number two is, God is talking to me, right? Maybe there's something there. Or number three is, don't worry about it, right? It's just examples, okay? Is that all right? And then, second thing I'd like to mention is, I want to apologize. I'm not like a traditional kind of speaker. There's some people that come up and give like a sermon, right? Like a, right? I am more, I know, some people really, I found out, some people have a hard time following because I go everywhere, right? In my talks. So, but it's just me, okay? I apologize. I cannot change now, so. You okay, Paul? Having a hard time already? No? All right. Okay, so.
Reason more.
Okay. So laws of relationships. This law, we're talking about principle here. This particular topic comes out of the first one, naturally, right? When we talk about cause and effect, there's two things, right? Cause and effect. And they have relationship with each other, correct? When we look at our lives, the world today, right, with all the conflicts, or even its beauty, right? All that is caused by what? Relationships, right? Either functional relationships or dysfunctional. In this particular world that we live in this universe, I mean, the earth, A lot of it is dysfunctional. And most of it happening because simple thing. People do not understand very simple rules for relationships. Just like if you don't understand simple rule for aerodynamics, flight, you're going to crash every time, right? If you don't understand the rules for electricity and you want to work with electricity, it's not going to work. You either get killed, right, or no result. Same thing for relationships. We all want to have a good relationships, and we kind of naturally engage, but if we don't follow certain things, they either gonna be dysfunctional or distractive, right, or they're just not gonna happen. Flashback, okay, I'm gonna a little bit different avenue. When I joined church, right, anyway, before I joined the church, the movement, I went through a very difficult time in my childhood, because maybe many of you can relate. I had an extremely dysfunctional family, a lot of childhood trauma, and I had to deal with it somehow, right? And what is the best way, well, not the best way, one of the ways people deal with a trauma?
Hey, drugs. Turn it up.
Drugs, drinking, right? Already my dad is alcoholic. I felt that didn't work for him, so I chose something else, right? He had his childhood trauma for sure. I chose humor, right? People deal, like a lot of comics, you think they're funny people, but actually in life they're extremely depressed, right? The very successful comics, they actually struggle a lot in life. And this is their way of coping with things, right? What's that? Who?
Robin Williams.
Yeah, a lot of them, actually, a lot of them. I'm still here, not gonna kill myself. I'm not that depressed, but I dealt with a lot of humor, right? I just made I joke spontaneously, right? So when I joined, I was so deeply moved by principle. However, right, to go into deep things, it was not easy for me, like go deeper, right? So I would just shrug things off with jokes, right? And then quite a few people told me when I joined, it's funny because they would just tell me straight up into my face, I don't think you're going to survive in this movement. You're going to leave. You're not deep enough, right? Everybody who said that to me is gone. It's gone, right? I am here somehow. So I was deeply contemplating, not now, but like in the past, like what happened, right? What made people stay here? And what made people leave our movement, right? A lot of people who were so smart and dedicated, right? And even brought a lot of breakthroughs, right? Left. And there's a lot of dumb people, right? Who don't understand anything in prayer. I'm just sorry. See, I was warning you, okay? You're not dumb, okay? We're simple-minded. No. Look, I've met a lot of people who it's like, you're giving them principle and they just don't get it. No matter how many times you give the lectures, and they just can't, but they're still here. It's why are you here? You don't did you understand what your father said? No, I don't understand anything. And there was after lectures, they would ask questions like, that's a simple concept, why are you still here? Why are many of us? Okay, so some of us are here because obviously we understood a lot. Hey, welcome. You missed some amazing part. I'm going to go back and repeat. And I realized when I met some members who left the movement, I met members who pretty resentful, and I know some members that are pretty resentful. And almost none of them because of the principle or because of the true parents. Actually, secretly, a lot of them still believe in true parents and believe in principle. Most members left because of relationships. People. Somebody did not fulfill their responsibility either as an Abel or as a Cain, right?
Or as the husband or wife.
Husband and wife, brother or sister, no, hopefully not, I don't know. Right? So, and that is a big deal because we don't understand very well, right, how relationships work. Even though we heard of them and we understand in the principle it says subject, object, right? But our heart always longs for this kind of relationship. Our heart always wants to have a deeper relationships. I know if I ask this question, you're probably going to say yes. Are we all interconnected, even if we don't talk with each other, right? Even in this room, we are all interconnected, correct?
Yep.
Nobody, even in this room, or even in this hotel, is just by themselves, right? It would be foolish to think, right, that my attitude, right, even when I walked in, right, probably Paul felt something is off. My wife was hugging me, like she was, he was standing there patiently waiting. I didn't say anything, I was just kind of, but you could feel, right, something is off about me. Quite often in the GPA meetings, right, when I show up and I'm mad, Roland immediately felt it, right? Something's off with Thor. It's just like, I'm just like pumping out negative energy, right? And if somebody comes in, right, and they're happy, immediately it's like, hey, it's just you're pumping out positive energy. So it's foolish to think, right, that I am just want to be on my own. I'm not touching anybody. I'm just gonna live my own life. But actually, we don't. We always even unknowingly impact people. Anybody heard of a device called metronome?
Yeah.
Yep. Dum, 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 dum. So there's an experiment, maybe you heard of it, right? There's an experiment that has been made with metronome. They would take two metronomes and they'll start it separately with different speeds. They put them kind of in proximity to each other, not touching or anything, just in one room. And then one goes this way, even one is going with different speed, right? After a certain time, you know what happens? They harmonize every time. They did that with 2. Then they did that with 4. Then they did that with 100. All at different speeds. After a while, they all doing this. Boom, 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 boom. Then they thought, oh, maybe that's an air resonance. Then they did it in vacuum. And then the same thing happened. So, you know why? Because metronomes are in the same informational field. Information that is shared between devices. It's like physics, right? But it's a quantum physics. We are the same, right? When we are in an environment with someone who is at a certain like a level of energy or field energy, like information, you don't need to say a word. So when you find yourself in life, for example, quite often start thinking, oh, I'm not so good, I'm not living a right lifestyle, I'm not so capable. Check your environment. Of course, we ourselves sometimes getting down on ourselves, but sometimes we're surrounded by negative metronomes. The ticking, right? And whether you like it or not, you will synchronize yourself with that metronome. So it's very important. But more importantly, it's important to protect your biofield. That's called it biological field, our energy, right? But more importantly is to become a metronome that ticks in your own rhythm, right? That's the good metronome, positive metronome. Okay? So, I'm just talking about relationships that are kind of invisible, right? Everybody wants to have, so come back to the main topic, sorry. What's an example, metronome, right? How powerful relationships are, even though we don't exude or talk, or we don't need to convince anybody. We can convince somebody just by our presence, right? So go back to the main topic. We all want successful relationships, right? What is the first ingredient for a successful relationship? Rule number 1,
Trust.
Trust.
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness, right? But if we go down, it's true, it's all true. But if we go down to the basic level, why some relationships very negative, some are very surface, some last short time, but some are very lasting. Like you can continue for years and years. What is a basic ingredient?
Heart.
Heart. But what we talk about it even more basic is the same what?
Giving and receiving, right?
Right. But the same interest. Common base. We call it common base, right? If common base is shallow, then the relationship is shallow. If all I talk with my son is about fishing, although it's very deep, right? Sometimes fish is deep, so we talk about deep, right? So my relationship with my son is just fishing deep, right? That's it. But if at some point I wish to transition with him in a deeper conversation, right? But also, I have a common base of blood with him, right? So maybe a bad example. I don't know, with I talk about just flowers. Flowers are beautiful, right? But if that's all we talk about, we cannot go anywhere. We just meet about flowers, right? Or if we just talk about something negative, our conversation and our relationship are very negative. So people, obviously, we all long, we thirst for deep, meaningful relationships. But without understanding, if we don't have a deep, meaningful what? Common base, no matter what, you can do surface. We can do surface relationship. We can talk about even, deep things. But if both of us deeply not connected to something deeper, then we cannot actually build a relationship, lasting relationship. For most of us here, what is it? What is our common base? God,
Our faith.
two parents, God's love, right? So yesterday we had an amazing Zoom call with one of our staff, GPA staff, right? She got let go, and then do you know Christine Forley? Yeah. Christine. She's kind of graduating. She became grandma recently, and we wanted to have a Zoom call to kind of congratulate her and then give her love. And I mean, I don't know about others, but we haven't seen on that Zoom call. There was old staff, right? Staff from years back. The moment I saw them, the tears just well up because everything just went rushing back, right? Our experiences together, fighting for one goal together, right? When you see your brothers and sisters, just I couldn't almost hold myself back. Just looking at their faces, they never changed. Some of them I haven't seen in 10 years, right? It's they never changed. To me, it's so beautiful because a common base. And we just immediately we start joking and hit off, even when we haven't seen each other in years, right? We just immediately start joking with each other, throwing fun, just free. You don't need an icebreaker. No icebreaker is necessary because just love. We were connected by this love, right? And so when we have that kind of common base, we can build a deeper relationship. So the same goes for any relationship, husband and wife, right? Quite often you can hear expression, loving husband and wife are not the ones that are looking at each other lovingly. It's the ones that are looking in the same direction, right? That's the love between husband and wife. Because at some point, both of you are not so attractive anymore, right? Old and saggy, and your husband is the only one who sees your wife without makeup, right? Right? But you can still love them. When I look at my wife, I see a tiny little girl, right? I have pictures of her when she's a little baby, a little girl. She's 5. Every time I see her, I just many times it's just this image. She's a little tiny girl, and then sometimes I hurt her, say things, and then really painful to me. to do that. So, why am I talking about it? It's a confession, right? Oh, okay. Confession time. So that's a basic thing we need. What is the next important thing that we need for relationships, successful relationships? Pretty obvious. Give between who and who?
I don't want to say subject and object because it's not
Yeah,
static.
we need two people.
You need two people.
We need two people. We need two things, right? I don't know, metronome and another metronome. Doesn't matter, right? A hammer and a nail. They have a relationship, right? A chainsaw and a tree. I know, it's just a little bit, sorry, a guy's example. Maybe girls would make example, flower in the air. I don't know. Whatever, right? Huh? Butterfly and flower. That's for my wife to talk. I'm a hammer and a nail, a chainsaw and a bullet and a deer. Hunter and a squirrel, whatever. So we need that subject and object, right? We need, again, it's not, I don't think it's a good word, but we need two entities in order to engage in a relationship, right? So to engage, so this is two basic rules, but those two basic rules many times are not followed the way they're supposed to be followed. So we all know that God, divided himself into two entities, right? And then he wanted these two entities to come together and create what? Union, right? And we draw it, I have no board, I was asking my wife, I wanted to draw this origin, division, union, right? And once we create that, then what happens? Well, but what we call that?
Union.
Four
Position
position
foundation.
foundation.
Right, we habitually call that four position foundation, but it's not, right? Because we never really understood how four position foundation is created. And so that you know that I'm not just talking out of my butt. It's in the principle here, okay? I'm going to say, so how this four position foundation is created. So you know, when four position foundation is, like when origin, division, union happens, so we have God as a center, right? Origin, then two entities are divided, husband and wife, body and mind, whichever, right? And then there's a union, correct? When those four things happen, what needs to happen in order for that four position foundation appear? Actually, what needs to happen is, I'll explain. When through origin, division, union action, the origin, the subject partner, and the object partner projected from the origin, and their union all fulfill the three object purposes, the four position foundation is established. So, the only way for four position foundation to be established is if every entity in that four position takes a position of what? Subject towards all other three. Meaning even child at the bottom or result has to take a position of subject at some point. Towards who? Even God. Even God has to at some point become an object. If that doesn't happen, four position foundation does not exist. There is no four position foundation. We cannot call it four position foundation if it's just God, husband, wife, and child. No, there has to be 12 objects. Me with God, then my wife with me and God and the child. Then child, that's where number 12 comes from. Four position foundation only established when that is fulfilled. Right? The four position foundation is the fundamental foundation of goodness. It is the realization of God's purpose of creation. It is the fundamental foundation for the life of all beings, providing all the forces necessary for their existence and enabling God to abide in them. Therefore, the four position foundation is a God's eternal purpose of creation. I know it's all technical and oh gosh, again, four position foundation. But actually, we don't practice it very well. That's why we're having a lot of problems in our relationships. How can we practice four positions foundation correctly? We need to become true subject, but also we need to become true object. And personally, I think only God knows how to do it. As of now, we don't, right? We're trying. Two parents came and tried to show it to us, right? But somehow some way God lost a bit, right? In our fallen natures. Again, it's my apologies if it triggers you a bit or something, right? Because I've made mistakes like that myself a lot, right? So how does true subject supposed to behave? What does true subject mean? Serve, right? But before even loving anybody, true subject has to feel God's love so deeply inside. They have to connect to God's heart themselves. Well, it's kind of tough to talk about God. He already connected to himself. But, if you are beside God, you have to feel God's love so much inside. You have to connect to God's heart so much. And when you do that, you naturally project that to your object. When that happens, okay, first of all, let me touch something. There's a concept of tough love, right? Tough love. Yeah, da-da-da. It's a tough love, okay? I'm okay with the concept. I don't believe this is the origin. Tough love does not exist without soft love. You cannot apply tough love to a baby. Shut up, tough love, right? I mean, they do that, like they put a baby in the crib and let him cry it out. Tough love, okay? No. God's love is always soft. Always. God's love is always embracing. God's love is always quiet. God's love is not shouting. God's love is not, what is it called? Pushing you to do something all the time. It's quiet. Right? Somebody shouting in your ears, do this or do that, many times is not really God. So when that love is applied, and that love is understood, and then you grow up in that kind of love, then you can sometimes give tough love, but only on that foundation. Right? Again, go back to true subject. When the true subject unconditionally gives that kind of love to an object, how does object naturally relate to that? Beautifully, right? Responds. Naturally respond. What if subject gives and object doesn't respond? It's not good, right? Usually, when subject gives and object does not respond, first initial reaction of a subject is like, I'm giving you love, you ungrateful rascal, right? Why don't you respond? So, we all created to live in love, all of us. We are sensitive towards love. Me, you, everyone. You don't have to convince anybody you love them if you love them. They naturally will feel it. I don't know any human being who will see love, feel love, experience love, and say, I don't know. Naturally will feel it. Naturally will respond. So if object doesn't respond and you're getting upset, did you just give true love? Maybe not. Did I just give true love to someone? Maybe my love was conditional. Maybe my love wasn't really a God's love. Right? So, it's easy for us to become false subject when you expect something in return. Because God does not expect that. God has wishes for us, goals for us, aspirations for us, but it's for our sake. Somebody once asked me, well, if God created human beings for joy and beauty, isn't it kind of selfish? in a principle, right? Why did God create? It's to experience joy. And I was like, isn't it kind of selfish that God created human beings for his own joy? I'm like, it sounds like that, but it's not. Because the way God experiences joy is different from if you create what is it? I don't know, make a doll or you make a car, right? You're just using it. The way God experiences joy by seeing me is how? By seeing me being happy and loved. That's how God feels joy. It's not by using me. It's by giving me joy. And then I respond back. So all of you did some talks, right, in the past, speeches?
Yeah.
Like even right now, right? The most toughest talk, right? When you talk and then audience is what? Right? It's difficult. No relationship, right? I'm very tough to talk to. Like when I'm in the audience, I think. Because like, back in the day we did lecture practice and then on purpose I would sit. And it's very difficult, I can imagine, right? You talk and somebody's just kind of looking at you and then there's no response, right? And you're like, and you're wondering, are they judging me or is everything okay, right? Damien once made an example, right? About a well. Like, if you're looking down the well, right? And then you see black. I don't know. Guys have a first impulse is to what? Throw something in there, right? And it's very, very unsatisfying when you throw a stone and nothing. It's like, wait, what? You throw another stone. Wait, what? Right? You want to hear doom or doom, right? Or bloop, 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 splash or something, right? It's a natural reaction. Like, subject wants to feel the response every time. But, right, if subject doesn't feel the response, in terms of relationship of love, subject needs to try what? Harder, right? More. Love invests more. We cannot demand that somebody responds and loves us. If audience doesn't respond to my jokes, means my jokes suck, right? Not a good joke, right? So I cannot accuse, oh, this is a dead audience, tough crowd, da 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 da. Right? Everybody can feel love, everybody can feel attention, right? So we all know, right, that there could be false subjects, right? But also there could be what? False objects, right? Any examples of false objects? Tougher, right? Much harder. I know a lot of people in our movement misuse their position of a leader, right? But a false object is also as culpable of violating the law of relationship as much as subject, right? False object is the one who trying to expect, right? You expect from somebody love, right? Instead of bringing beauty, right? Initiating. False object is the one who also what? Manipulates. Have you ever met manipulative people?
Ooh, yeah.
Right? Who will pretend that they listening to you, but actually, they manipulate you into doing right? A lot of kids maybe would do that, right? To parents. And you're like, what just happened? I just spent a lot of money, right? Without even, or wife, right? Guilt tripping into husband into something, I don't know. Or husband guilt tripping wife into something, right? There is quite a bit of false objects. And both of those relationships always end in frustration, anger, right? Every time. So in order for us to create a good relationship, we need to first connect to God and God's love, right? We need to build a relationship in our heart based on God's love, right? And then when we feel that God's love, our relationship between our mind and body is good, then we can give. Also, receiving, it's important to receive the right way as well, right? You don't just receive and, okay, thanks, right? But how can I reciprocate back, to give energy back? The biggest mistake, from my observation, the biggest mistake in relationship is that we know each other's responsibilities, right? Oh, you my subject? Why don't you fulfill your responsibility, towards me? And you, Toli, you my object. Why don't you unite with me, right? Sorry, making an example, but you're not like that. I know.
You don't know me very well.
Yeah, I don't know you, right? But it's all our mistake. We somehow want to change the other side. And that is a carnal, mistake in this law. You have to fulfill I can only change me. I can only change myself. I can only behave the way I behave. I cannot expect somebody to behave towards me the right way all the time, right? So, subject demanding unity from someone is plainly and simply wrong. It's wrong. Object being manipulating subject to do what object needs to do is plainly wrong. Nobody needs to unite with anybody. I'm sorry to say, nobody needs to unite with anybody. We want to unite with each other. When leader comes in, that's how Father worked. I mean, this law applies to true parents, whether you like it or not. And then okay, sorry guys, but true parents made mistakes in this law. And they owned to it. By the way, true parents owned up to it. How? In Father's words. Father said, I am the worst filial son that ever existed. I treated my mother badly. Father he explained why, for God's will, but Father didn't make excuses. He actually said, I am the worst filial son. That relationship with his mom didn't work. It didn't work. He treated his mom badly. Then Father went on and what? Apologized to his children. One Sanjini in an elevator, right? And I heard other instances. Very genuinely, profoundly, I'm so sorry. I was a really bad dad. Father didn't make excuses. He was a bad father towards his children. And we don't need to make that excuse either. He was a good, true father to us. But to his children, he couldn't practice the law of relationship with his children. He apologized deeply for that. And he owned to it. He owned up. Right? So, the same goes with us. We cannot demand unity. When True Father, I heard stories. I wasn't there, but I heard stories from firsthand people who, Father went on a fishing boat, and then one time he got this really nasty captain who was just cussing all over the place. Right? And then all the members, oh, it's True Father. And the guy was like, F this, F that. And he knew it's Reverend Moon, and he probably even, was even madder. What did True Father do? Then he's like, yo, I'm a Messiah. Own up to it. You're subject, I'm subject. Unite. How did True Father react? Anybody, you guys hear that story or? No? Well, True Father didn't laugh. Father was trying to do something. Father, of course, knows how to fish. Something happened to good go boat, or there was no good go boat. Father went to a place where just like an American dude, right? And he was so rough to True Father, really disrespectful. And then Father just humbly, okay, yeah. And then Father would try to do something, and the guy, mother effer, what are you doing? Da, 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 da. And Father's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And Father just like, no. It was like something a day or two, Ron, I don't know.
Yeah,
fishing.
Reverend Thompson was with him. It was
Right.
one day. But
One day,
basically
right?
hot.
At the end of that trip, you know what happened to that captain? Father didn't say a word of principle to him. That captain was like a little puppy. Reverend Moon, because I don't know, metronome, right? Again, metronome, Father is the metronome. All of a sudden, without saying a word, goodbye. See, she didn't like my talk. Father taught us to be a true subject. You don't need to convince anybody to unite with you. We don't need to unite with anybody. We can unite together. Unity together is more powerful than unity with somebody else. I mean, if you so loving and inclined to unite with that person, that's fine if it's out of love. But if it's just because principle says so, huh?
Not love.
It's not love. It's coercion through principle. Because principle says so, object has to unite with subject. That's not principle. I'm sorry. It's not. It's leader came from Korea or Japan and told us to do so because somehow he saw that in True Father, but he cannot replicate what True Father does. And so instead of going the right way, which is a long way, he goes the short way, gun to the head. Unite or you go to hell. Unite or you're not fulfilling God's will. Unite or you are not really a true object. I know some of you maybe disagree with me, but I just think that's what I observed. In my leadership, I did both mistakes. I did a gun to the head, right? And people hated me, united, but in the end didn't like me. And I had no gun to the head. I just patiently loved and embraced. And people wrote me, "You changed my life," you know, da da da, and I don't even remember what I did. "You saved my life." You said da da da. I think all of you have experience with that, right? Where you just fulfilled your responsibility as a loving what? Subject. Where you don't feel like you're subject, actually. You feel like you are servant, right? True subject will never feel, "I'm a subject here." That's how God feels, right? So, again, if we unite together, that is great. What is a great, so relationship takes effort, obviously, right? We all have to. So what is the greatest example of relationships? Successful relationship. If we strip everything down, what is the greatest example of successful relationship? Okay, my time is rolling, I'm not gonna, it's a rhetorical question, but it's like, it's parent-child, right? Parent-child relationship, right? Of course, there are some frictions, but naturally parents feel what? Like a servant to a child, right? Like, I don't know, in my family, I rarely feel like I'm a boss or something. I don't like go around like I'm a boss here. You better do what I say. Huh? If I get upset at my kids, right, I'll say, "Yeah, whatever." They get upset back, right? I know this is not. If I say to my wife something, she gives a piece of her mind to me every time. I mean, like, no excuse. And then I don't feel like a boss at that time. You know, so deflated, right? Every time I try to feel, but if I feel like loving servant, somehow they treat me like a boss, right? But the parent and child relationship is the most kind of good example. But within parent and child relationship, what is even more powerful relationship of example of that? Is mother and child, right? Mother and the child is the most, because why? Natural sacrifice. Mother will sacrifice her life for the child, right? Therefore, the most powerful subject, the most powerful relation we can ever experience is Heavenly Mother. I know we want Heavenly Father, Heavenly Mother, but Heavenly Mother is the most powerful love that we can actually experience. We all say, "Oh God, He loved us," but from my experience, I realized the most, I know, dads don't want to hear this. "I love my child too," okay? I'm sorry, no matter how much you love your child, dads, mom will die many times. Like Father talked about it. Rooster cannot approach eggs with a hen, right? The hen will tear rooster apart. You know, like, oh, everybody knows, husbands, when you have your wife pregnant or they deliver the child, one wrong look, your wife will tear you apart, right? Like husbands are like a little puppy, "Okay, I'll do whatever," right? My wife, one time she was pregnant, she ordered me, "I'm hungry, I need a bagel with the salmon cream cheese." Like, what? I go to the store, buy a salmon cream cheese, never bought a salmon cream cheese in my life. I give her salmon cream cheese, she takes one bite. "Okay, I'm done." The whole tub of cream cheese. You know, it's like, but. So mother's love is the most powerful love. And that's the love God loves us with. Yeah, sometimes God uses fatherly love to discipline us, but it only on the foundation of motherly love. You cannot apply tough love to anybody you have no foundation doing it with. You cannot judge anybody or tell them what is right and what is wrong until you really, what? Love them, embrace them, forgave them, gave them grace. And because we don't understand this basic law, we always mess up our relationships. Every time. We lose our patience. I lose my patience most of the time. Right? When something doesn't go the way I want it, like I want fast results, I resort to what? Shouting, right? Basically, force, right? You resort to force. And that's men's way, always. And somehow men interprets that as it's a good stuff love. No, it's yours, right? Your fallen nature, my fallen nature right now. It's not God's stuff love. Like I was telling my wife yesterday, parents can push their children, yes. And they can say things, sometimes very forceful things, but they'll never do it before they loved you, sacrificed for you, right? Your parents do these things because they know they have a foundation to do so. If some Joe Schmo comes I'm appointed by whoever, and they come and give you direction without any concern for what you're feeling, what you're going through, what is your situation, right? We have to fulfill our responsibility and as a subject sometimes to love object. But also we have to fulfill our responsibility as an object many times. To do what? To tell subject that you are out of line. It's my duty, if I notice that my subject is not following to parents, it's my duty, okay? Not to unite, but nicely, with loving heart, to say, I really love you, brother or sister. I really do. But I think you're not right here. Let's unite together and discuss it. Right? Let's talk. But if it's no talking here. No talking here, and we're going to do what I say. Sure, we can do it. Will that bring lasting result?
No.
Never. Almost never. It never brings, it will bring quick results, yes, but almost never lasts. Actually, never lasts, not almost. Never lasts. But if we talk, right? And at that point, it doesn't really matter who is subject, who is object. Me and her, like brother and sister, we talked, we discussed. And then we fight it out. It's okay, we fight. No, I don't like it. No, I don't like it. No. But eventually, no, we're not leaving this room until we hammer it out. Fight is okay. Fight is good. We need to fight sometimes. We have to voice our opinion. Because if we don't, then what do? We commit a sin of, as an object, sin of omission. We actually allow our subject to commit more sin. Right? I'm not talking about, honestly speaking, I'm not talking about anybody in general. I'm talking about husband and wife here. Right? Like, if a wife disagrees with husband, we need to fight. We have to fight. Like a good fight, heavenly fight. Right? We fight, we discuss it. No, he's like, I'm not talking to you anymore. My mom would give my dad silent treatments. When my mom and dad fought, my mom would not talk to him, you wouldn't believe it, a month. It's very tough for a husband, right? Very difficult. But is that a right way of doing it? Right? Then me as a child have to what? Become mediator, right? I have a childhood trauma, trying to reconcile my parents. So I have to become a parent. So sad, right? So without knowing, we are just like with our dysfunctional, not understanding how relationships work. So, bottom line is, we need a lasting common base, deep as possible common base. And two is we need to fulfill our responsibilities as true subject and true object. It's very simple. It's just many times we try to fulfill other person's responsibility, right? Trying to tell them what they need. Because we know, right? We're so smart. We heard so many DP lectures. We know what other person needs to be doing, right? Every time. I mean, me included, right? So, but as a true object and true subject, we need to experience and give God's love to everyone else first, and return God's love to everyone first, right? And then on that foundation, we can move forward, we can unite. Somebody once asked, like, ability to disunite, is it, not ability, desire not to follow someone who somebody says. Like if Anatoli, I want you to do this. Sorry, okay, not you. Maybe Raymond tells me. Totally. Already too much example. We want to see you in positive light. Okay? Raymond. Right? Oh, got it. Totally, I want you to do this. Right? I don't know, like, again, I'm not a woman, but maybe first woman's reaction, okay, right? But first reaction of a guy is like, no. Like, what are you talking to me like that, dude? Right? Is that original or fallen nature? Trick question, right? It's original nature, actually. Actually, because why? God created us to be the Lord of creation, to be owner of creation. Have you, like, guys, I don't know, but even women, have you ever, like, struggled with a problem and somebody figured it out and you're like, damn, why didn't I do that, right? Why didn't I figure this out before? That's so simple. Like, why, right? I don't know, but as a guy, I felt so, like, indignant, right? Actually, it's from original nature. We guys, and maybe some women, right, feel, oh, I don't want to unite with you, right? I don't want to listen to you, right? It's actually original nature because I want to be my own boss. I want to be Lord of creation. I want to be the owner of creation, right? But then what happens? If we practice the law of relationship, instead of, hey Raymond, I want you to do this, right? It's like, hey Raymond, how is it going, right? I love you. We're talking, it's like, hey, I have this idea. Do you like that? It's like, yeah, I like that. It's like, can we do that together? It's like, yeah, we can do that together. And he's just doing it with me without even me telling him, I want you to do that, right? Just like that, right? I want you to bring 30,000 people. I want you, and I want you. No, I don't want to do it. Why? Because you said so. I want to do it because I want to do it. I don't want to do it because you want to do it, right? So that's the thing, correct? So if we practice the right way, a good relationship, I know it's not easy, takes a lot of effort, but that's what makes our hearts grow a lot. We learn about people. Am I too long? Too long, right?
Yeah.
Too long.
I'll do it next week.
I wanna make a. Have you heard of Universe 25? Anybody heard of Universe experiment of Universe 25? Last example, I swear, I'm gone for the next month. Next month I'm leaving. You haven't heard about Universe 25? So this guy, he created this paradise for mice.
Oh,
You know that?
no.
You heard of it?
Sounds good though, right?
It sounds
Yeah.
good.
So he actually did in 1972, and he did this experiment. Why is Universe 25? Because it's 25th iteration of it, right? But he repeated this just to make sure this is what it is. It's not a fluke, right? Universe 25 was a final experiment, and he created this big enclosure, right, for mice, and they had everything in there, everything, food, water. He even built like a top level penthouses for them, like literally there's a kind of good apartments for them, and there's like top level penthouses, right, for them, like completely like amazing. And so he put in 4 pairs of mice in there, right? And in the beginning everything was great. They multiplied and everything was amazing. And on day 355, right? On day 355, they stopped multiplying, right? There were so many mice, and there were about 800 mice multiplied. They actually, every 20 days, they like doubled, right? And then they actually stopped multiplying at some point, and then they appeared, they call them beautiful mice. Lady mice, they would go up to the penthouse level, and all they did was just groom themselves. They were not interested anymore. They were not interested anymore in courting, and then there would be like a homosexual relationships going on between guys. I mean, the male mice at that point, right? They were still multiplying a bit. They stopped at 2,200 mice after 3 years, right? And at some point, all multiplication stopped. They stopped cannibalizing each other, fighting. They had enough food, they had enough space. He made sure of that. But basically, all the challenges were removed. The population grew, and I think after 5 years, the last mouth died. All of them, all 25 iterations of that universe ended in death. Every single one of them died. All the mice died. They were busy with, guys were busy with hanging out with guys and basically being, like even, it's crazy. Even like, male mice start becoming like a beautiful mice, right? And then no mouse wanted to court each other anymore. Interestingly, it resembles our society very, very well, right? Why? Because all of a sudden, because it was so easy, there was no effort made to make any relationship work. And then after certain generations, the mice didn't learn anything about how to make relationship with each other, right? Or fight for relationships. And then basically, people interpret that in all different ways. People interpret that as that's what happens when population becomes big and da-da-da-da-da. But there are some people interpret that as when you don't have any more effort, they're not making, everything is too easy. You don't make any more effort, right? You become affluent. You always go down. The relationships always break down. I'm just trying to make an example. The relationship takes effort. Just because you're here in your head and you know a lot of things, doesn't mean you have a skill. We have a skill to practice the laws of the universe, right? We don't have a skill sometimes to practice the laws of relationship. You can read about that, Universe 25. It's very, very interesting. I didn't go into much detail, but he goes in detail, like, and resembles all of there's entertainment mice who just like, it's crazy. He didn't do anything. They just would like exactly what we're just so obsessed with entertainment, so obsessed with, with all kinds of things, right now. And then somehow, I think for us, it's important to understand that God's love is unchanging, and we need to practice the laws of relationships correctly. We can study it, but we have to become true subjects, true objects, okay?
Yes.
Let's impact other peoples with our hearts, not with force, not with even truth, right? I always ask like that, if Adam and Eve never fell, do you think Adam at some point would sit down and write Divine Principle book? Most likely not. We would not have this, right? Or I ask, do you think is God religious? No, God is just God, right? We made a religion, right? We come up with all this truth that this is right and this is wrong. But the most right or wrong thing is whether you love someone truly or you don't. Whether you're patient to them or not, right? Whether you invest in them or not, with God's heart, right? There's a lot of fallen love, of course, right? But we talk about if you connect to God yourself and understand how much God loves you, you can love other people. We can love other people. Again, I myself completely far away from this. I'm just tool here, okay? That is obviously. All right, thank you very much. Should I pray or somebody else can pray? Can I order someone to pray? I'll pray. Dear God, Heavenly Parents, thank you so very much. When we look around us, even though universe itself is so hostile to life, out there beyond this beautiful womb that we're in, the earth, is completely hostile to life. But when we look up in the sky, it's all so beautiful. The sunsets and sunrises, the rain, the snow, summer, the winter, the fall, spring, flowers, is all expression of your beautiful motherly love. You gave all of this to us to learn how to treat each other, how to love each other, how to embrace each other. Heavenly Parent, we're so grateful that we have you as our parent. Of course, we would not exist without you, but still, it is an incredible thing that we are your children. You are our parent. It is so amazing. We cannot express our gratitude enough, how much love we received in our life. You saved us through true parents. You gave us so much love through true parents, through principle, through each other, through everybody around us, through our children, our husband and wife. We just don't recognize it very well, but we will one day. Please guide each person here. Fill their next week with love. Even sometimes challenges come, and sometimes worry and anxiety come, but in the end, it all turns out to be your love. Please guide each person here. Love each person here with your loving hand and your loving heart. And we want to experience cheek-to-cheek relationship with you, Heavenly Parent. I offer this report now in Anatoli, Kazak, Kazak's blessed family, in the name of Mother Han. Aju.
Let's pray. Yeah, let's have some moment.